They say evil leaves a trace, a chill in the air, a creaking step when no one's home, a trail of footprints leading in but never back out. In 1922, deep in the forests of Bavaria, a remote farm became the site of one of the most brutal and baffling crimes in German history. 6 people murdered with a pickaxe. Days passed before anyone noticed. To this day, no one knows who did it or why. This is the story of Hinterkaifeck, a murder mystery so disturbing it feels like something out of a nightmare. But every part of it is true. Hinterkaifeck wasn't a town. It wasn't even a village. It was just one lonely farmhouse tucked away in the woods about 70 kilometers north of Munich. The name Hinterkaifeck means behind Kaifeck, referencing a nearby hamlet. The Gruber family lived there. Andres Gruber, 63. His wife, Cecilia, 72. Their widowed daughter, Victoria, 35. Her 2 children, Cecilia, 7, and Joseph, just 2. And finally, their maid, Maria Baumgartner, who had just started working at the farm the very day the murders occurred. It was a secluded, quiet life. But in the months leading up to the tragedy, strange things started to happen. Andreas told neighbors he had found footprints in the snow leading from the forest to the house, but none going back. He heard footsteps in the attic. Tools disappeared. A newspaper appeared in the house that no one remembered buying. He told people, but he didn't go to the police. Maybe he thought he could handle it. Or maybe the danger was already inside. March 31st, 1922. No one knows exactly when the killer struck. What we do know is horrifying. The killer didn't attack all at once. He lured the family out one by one to the barn. Maybe by imitating a noise. Maybe calling their names. First Andreas, then his wife, then their daughter Victoria, then little Cecilia. Each one was bludgeoned to death with a pickaxe-like tool, believed to be a mattock. Young Cecilia didn't die instantly. She had clumps of her own hair torn out, likely from the agony of lying next to her dead family, waiting to die. Inside the house, the killer wasn't done. He went into the maid's room and murdered Maria. Then he killed baby Joseph, who was sleeping in his crib next to Victoria's bed. 6 people, dead, on a quiet farm in the woods. But here's where it gets even stranger. The bodies weren't discovered for 4 days. During that time, neighbors noticed smoke coming from the chimney. Someone had been feeding the cattle. Someone had eaten meals from the kitchen. The family dog had been tied up. The killer didn't flee the scene. He lived there. Imagine that. Someone staying in the same house as the corpses, sleeping, eating, waiting. When the bodies were found on April 4th, they were stacked and partially covered with hay in the barn. The maid was found in her bed, Joseph in his blood-soaked cot. The murder weapon? A sharpened mattock, later discovered hidden in the attic or behind the barn wall, depending on which report you read. There were no signs of robbery. Money and valuables were untouched. The crime didn't seem random. It felt personal. The investigation that followed was chaotic. Police interviewed over 100 suspects, but they never arrested anyone. Theories bloomed like fungus, wild, obsessive, and increasingly bizarre. Some thought Victoria's husband, Carl Gabriel, had faked his death in World War I and returned in secret. Maybe he found out Joseph wasn't his child and sought revenge. Others suspected Lawrence Schlittenbeer, a neighbor and former lover of Victoria. He had helped find the bodies and behaved strangely, unlocking doors no one thought he had access to. He also immediately fed the animals upon entering, as if he were familiar with the place. Was it guilt, or just a man trying to be helpful? A local man with a criminal record was briefly suspected, as were travelers, former maids, even Victoria's pastor. But nothing stuck. No motive, no confession, no proof. There were whispers of incest, that Joseph was not the son of Victoria's dead husband, but her father Andreas. Court records suggest Andreas and Victoria were once charged with incest, though it's unclear what came of it. Maybe the murder wasn't just rage. Maybe it was punishment. After the murders, the farm became a magnet for morbid curiosity. Hundreds of people came to see the scene. Some even took pieces of the house, wood, nails, even blood-stained items as souvenirs. In 1923, the house was demolished, but not before something truly macabre happened. During the autopsy, the heads of all 6 victims were removed and sent to Munich for forensic analysis. For some reason, the skulls were never returned. They were lost, possibly destroyed, during World War II bombings. To this day, the victims of Hinterkaifeck are buried headless. Some say the place is haunted, that you can hear footsteps in the snow, that something evil still lingers in the woods. Despite several reinvestigations, including one as recently as the 1990s, the case remains unsolved. Modern criminal profilers attempted to reconstruct the killer's psychology, suggesting someone who knew the family, who was comfortable on the farm, and who was capable of controlling 6 people without panic or noise. But no new evidence has ever emerged. It's as if the killer walked into the forest and vanished. Some locals believe it was a drifter. Others think it was someone from the village. Someone everyone knew. Someone no one wanted to accuse. Maybe the killer died with their secret. Or maybe they passed it down like a family heirloom. So why does this case haunt us over a century later? Maybe it's the brutality, the randomness, the utter silence in which it happened. Maybe it's because the Hinterkaifeck murders violate a basic rule of life, that home is supposed to be safe, that monsters live far away, not just down the road. Or maybe it's because we're still looking for an answer, and answers in the dark are hard to come by. The Hinterkaifeck murders are more than a mystery. They're a scar carved deep into the history of a quiet village, a reminder that evil doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just walks up the snowy path, waits in the attic, and strikes when no one is listening. And sometimes it never leaves. If this story disturbed you, you're not alone. Like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments, what do you think happened at Hinterkaifeck? And remember, some doors are better left unopened.